2025 will be remembered as one of the most defining seasons in Carlos Alcaraz's career, and, more importantly, one of the most defining seasons in the history of tennis. 2 Grand Slams, the return to world number 1, a statistical deadlock with Jannik Sinner that looks like the reincarnation of Federer, Nadal, and the birth of a rivalry so perfect, so evenly matched, that it feels scripted. But it was also a year that ended with pain, literal pain. Right when Spain expected him to lead the Davis Cup team, the ischial edema appeared out of nowhere. A sudden stop. A brutal blow for Spain, for Alcaraz, and for every fan who believed 2025 would end with his first-ever Davis Cup title. Yet, while one door closed, another opened, a much bigger one. Because just hours after confirming his injury, Alcaraz gave the world a phrase that exploded across social media and sports headlines. "I want to complete the calendar Grand Slam. Not try. Not dream. Not one day. No. I want to complete the calendar Grand Slam." The kind of sentence only 5 men in the entire history of tennis have turned into reality. The kind of mission reserved for athletes who are more than champions. Athletes who change eras. And Carlos Alcaraz, at just 22, is preparing for 2026 like a man who knows history is there, waiting for him. But to understand why this objective matters, and why 2026 could become the most important season of his life, we need to examine everything surrounding this new stage. His comments, his planning, his rivals, his critics, his commercial explosion, and the unstoppable evolution of his rivalry with Jannik Sinner. Because yes, Alcaraz is entering 2026 different. More mature, more ambitious, more closely watched, and more dangerous. And the pressure? He embraces it. The Connors criticism. Right after the injury announcement, Jimmy Connors launched a missile at Alcaraz's preseason schedule. They play too many exhibitions. Then they arrive tired at the Australian Open. Why? Because Alcaraz has several high-profile exhibitions scheduled. December 7th versus Francis Tiafoe, New Jersey. December 8th versus Joao Fonseca, Miami. One more exhibition match in Korea versus Jannik Sinner before Melbourne. For Connors, that is a problem. For Alcaraz, not really. Carlos has never played warm-up tournaments before the Australian Open. His formula is always the same. Train hard. Arrive fresh. Destroy. Exhibitions don't change that routine, they simply add entertainment and millions. But 2026 is different. 2026 is the year where everything starts with Australia. Because if he wants the calendar slam, Melbourne is the foundation. And he knows it. The ATP Awards. A new status. While Alcaraz recovered at home, the ATP announced the nominees for its yearly awards, and Carlos appeared in 2 heavyweight categories. 1. Stefan Edberg Sportsmanship Award. He already won it in 2023. Now he's nominated again, alongside Dimitrov, Auger Aliassime, Casper Ruud. Players vote on this one. Legends vote on this one. And the message is clear. Alcaraz is becoming one of the faces of clean, respectful tennis. 2. Coach of the Year, Ferrero and Samu Lopez. Their competition? Darren Cahill and Simone Vagnozzi, Sinner's team. Benjamin Ballaret, Valentin Vacherot's coach. Frederic Fontong, Auger Aliassime. Brian Shelton, Ben Shelton's coach. While the media tries to sell Sinner versus Alcaraz as a war, their teams coexist, respect each other, and even get nominated together. The truth is simple. This rivalry is not toxic. It is evolutionary. Both players are pushing each other into greatness. Alcaraz, now a global brand. A detail that almost nobody noticed. Carlos Alcaraz officially registered his name, his foundation, and the silhouette of his signature volley as trademarks at the European Intellectual Property Office. Yes, the Alcaraz volley is now intellectual property. Just like Nadal's logo. Just like Federer's RF. Just like Djokovic's brand. This is not something normal athletes do. This is something icons do. Alcaraz isn't just building a career. He's building a global identity. 2026 might deliver something even bigger than Alcaraz versus Sinner, the arrival of a third monster. His name is already circulating in locker rooms, in tennis panels, and in every prediction for the future. Joao Fonseca. And Carlos Alcaraz didn't hesitate for a second when talking about him. He's a special player. Power, raw talent, a forehand that sounds like a gunshot, a serve that already ranks among the tour's best. But also weaknesses that Alcaraz openly highlighted. Mobility, rhythm changes, maintaining intensity for long matches. Because yes, Fonseca is electric. But consistency, that's another world. Still, the Brazilian finished 2025 as world number 24, which is absurd for his age. And in December, he will face Alcaraz in a Miami exhibition, a match that could become the opening chapter of something massive. But even with a rising star behind them, the reality remains unchanged. Tennis today has two kings, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner. And as Andy Roddick said, this version of Alcaraz is entirely different. The American sees Alcaraz arriving to the 2026 Australian Open not just physically prepared, but mentally transformed, sharper, calmer, more dangerous. And for the first time ever, Alcaraz enters a season with a carrot that the legends never had at his age. He can become the youngest calendar Grand Slam champion in history. This hunger, this impossible goal, changes absolutely everything. The dark side of the sport. A brutal reality. While Alcaraz's rise feels supernatural, not everyone from his generation has lived the same story. And no one illustrates this contrast better than Pablo Lamas, his teammate from the Junior Davis Cup U16, now ranked number 210. His confession shocked the tennis world. In the middle of a match, I started crying. I was spending in 5 days what my parents earned in a month. Hotels, flights, food, equipment, coaches. The truth is harsh. Until the top 250, players lose money. Only the top 100 actually live off tennis. Most players spend €60,000 to €80,000 per year just to compete. So while Alcaraz shines with trophies, luxury sponsorships, and historic victories, the shadow behind tennis is long, dark, and unforgiving. And that contrast makes his achievements even greater. Alcaraz is not just talent. He is discipline, structure, professionalism, and the ability to carry pressure that breaks most players. The withdrawal that changed everything. Carlos wanted to play the Davis Cup. He needed it. He dreamed about it. This was the title he still didn't have. But then came the diagnosis. Ischial edema. A minor injury, unless you push it. The doctors warned him of a real risk of tearing fibers if he played. David Ferrer, Spain's captain, put it simply. The priority is protecting his health. The blow was devastating. Carlos himself admitted it. I go home hurt. And yet, Spain made a miracle comeback against the Czech Republic. But the image that stole the internet was not the victory. It was Alcaraz watching from his living room. A regular sofa. A TV. 2 Grand Slam trophies on a very normal shelf. And the most viral detail. A plastic tablecloth, the typical mantel de Huel, that half of Spain owns. Fans loved it. Comment sections exploded. Because in that photo, Carlos wasn't the global superstar. He was just a kid from Murcia. A kid who still lives like millions of Spaniards. A kid with feet on the ground, even when he's number 1 in the world. That authenticity is part of his magic. The football comparison. Alcaraz is Zidane. Lorenzo Musetti was asked which footballer Alcaraz would be. His answer was instant. Zinedine Zidane. Why? Creativity, vision, elegance, authority, and the ability to invent the impossible. The comparison is perfect. Alcaraz is not only power and speed, he's pure imagination. And the numbers prove it. There is a statistic that sounds impossible, almost like a mistake, and yet it is absolutely real. 302 total points played between Alcaraz and Sinner. 1,651 won by Carlos. 1,651 won by Jannik. A perfect 50-50th split. ***. No rivalry in modern tennis comes close to this level of mathematical equality. Federer. Nadal never had it. Djokovic. Nadal never had it. Not even Djokovic. Federer. This is something entirely new. A rivalry designed by destiny. 2 players born to collide. 2 champions built to push each other to unimaginable limits. And the numbers keep getting crazier. 24 titles each. 15 tiebreaks in 16 matches. Multiple Grand Slam finals. Matches that feel scripted for cinema. You would think these numbers belong in a documentary voiceover, not in the real ATP Tour. And yet here we are. 2026 is not just another season. It is the continuation of a war that will define an era. ***. The points that will decide everything. Right now, Alcaraz, 12,500 ATP points. Sinner, 11,500 ATP points. Difference, only 1,000. But here's the twist. At the Australian Open, Alcaraz defends 400 points. Sinner defends 2,000 points. He is the reigning champion. Conclusion. Even if Carlos loses in the first round, and even if Sinner wins the whole tournament, Alcaraz remains world number one. That means he begins 2026 guaranteed at the top. But then, the storm arrives. From February to April, Sinner defends nothing for 3 months, while Alcaraz defends 500, Rotterdam, 400, Indian Wells, 180, Miami, 1,000, Monte Carlo, 330, Barcelona Open. If they both go deep in these events, Sinner could steal back the number one as early as spring. The war for the throne will be brutal, aggressive, and strategic. This is not 2024. This is not 2025. This is the season where everything is on the line. Ranking, legacy, identity, history. The first step toward the calendar Grand Slam. And behind it all, the obsession. We are obsessed with each other. This is the most revealing sentence Alcaraz has said in months. I think both Sinner and I are obsessed with each other. Not as enemies. Not as rivals who hate each other. But as warriors who need the other to evolve. This isn't Federer versus Nadal where styles clashed. This is something else. Something psychological. Two athletes redesigning their entire careers with one objective. Beat the other. Sinner adapts his serve because of Alcaraz. Alcaraz adjusts his aggression because of Sinner. They study each other like chess grandmasters. They prepare entire seasons thinking about the other's strengths. This is why their rivalry is different from anything we've seen. It's not emotional. It's not personal. It's not dramatic. It's evolutionary. They push each other to survive, to improve, to stay alive at the top. This is exactly what Djokovic and Nadal had. But Alcaraz and Sinner have it at 22 and 24 years old. We are seeing the beginning of a decade-long collision. The photo that broke the internet. And in the middle of this gladiator war, something hysterical happened. Carlos Alcaraz posted a photo from his house while watching Spain win in the Davis Cup. Nothing fancy. Nothing staged. Just a normal sofa. A TV with the match on. A cheap plastic tablecloth, mantle de Huel. And 2 Grand Slam trophies resting casually on a shelf like cheap souvenirs. Social media exploded. Because the moment felt so real, so human, so Spanish, so unexpected, that fans forgot the match and began analyzing the living room. It was the perfect picture of who Carlos truly is. A global superstar, who still lives like a normal kid from Murcia. This authenticity is part of his power, part of why millions follow him, part of why he handles pressure better than anyone. He is still grounded, even with 6 Grand Slams, millions in sponsorships, and the world watching him. 2026 is not just another season, not another chapter, not another ranking battle. 2026 is the beginning of the era of Alcaraz versus Sinner. Not one king, 2 kings. 2 forces rewriting the architecture of modern tennis in real time. But in the middle of the rivalry, one sentence from Carlos Alcaraz changed everything. I want to complete the calendar Grand Slam. A phrase that shook the tennis world. A phrase only 5 men in history have ever been able to say, and mean it. Rod Laver, Don Budge, the giants of a distant era. And now, a 22-year-old Spanish kid with a plastic tablecloth in his living room. This is why 2026 feels different. The stakes are different. The story is different. The ambition is different.
Alcaraz isn't talking about dominating the tour.
He's talking about dominating history.
The road to the calendar Grand Slam. To complete the calendar slam, Carlos must win Australian Open,
Roland Garros, Wimbledon, US Open, in the same year. Impossible? Maybe.
But here's the reality. He already won Wimbledon 3 consecutive times. He already beat Sinner at Roland Garros and the US Open. He arrives in Melbourne hungrier than ever. He begins 2026 as world number 1 no matter what.
His mentality is at its strongest point since turning pro.
And there's something more important.
He believes he can do it. Not in a childish way. Not in a delusional way. He believes it in the way Federer believed he could win everything.
In the way Rafa believed he could own clay forever.
In the way Djokovic believed the impossible was normal. Champions feel destiny before anyone else. The dark side of the journey.
But this season didn't come without pain. Carlos Alcaraz ended 2025 with
a muscle edema,
the frustration of missing the Davis Cup, thousands of headlines questioning his schedule,
critics attacking his exhibitions, pressure to defend huge points in 2026, and the constant shadow of Sinner chasing him everywhere. He said it clearly. I'm going home hurt. Not physically.
Emotionally. He wanted to play the Davis Cup. He needed it. He dreamed of lifting that trophy. And once again, fate closed the door.
Spain qualified anyway.
And Alcaraz watched the victory from his sofa, with social media exploding over the now famous viral photo. But that moment changed nothing about the bigger picture. He's still the leader of a new generation. He's still the face of modern tennis. And he's still the one with the clearest path to history, the ERA of 2, not 1. Many people talk about the Alcaraz era. But they're wrong. This era has 2 names, not 1. Alcaraz and Sinner. Their rivalry is
mathematical, emotional, physical, strategic, and absolutely historic.
1,651 points for each. Over 3,302 points played. It's destiny, not coincidence. And in 2026, the rivalry moves into its most dangerous phase. Sinner defending almost nothing.
Alcaraz defending everything.
The number 1 ranking on a knife's edge. Both obsessed with beating the other. Both reaching their absolute peak.
This is not a battle.
It's not a competition. It's mutual evolution.
Djokovic and Nadal had this. Federer and Nadal had this.
But Carlos and Jannik have it at the beginning of their careers. We are witnessing something bigger. The birth of a 2-player dynasty, the human side of a superstar. And yet, despite the trophies, millions, sponsors, pressure, and fame, Carlos Alcaraz remains Carlos Alcaraz. A kid smiling next to a TV. A kid with trophies sitting on a random shelf. A kid whose living room looks like millions of homes across Spain.
This is why people believe in him. Why they connect with him. Why they want him to win. Because greatness means nothing without humility.
And Alcaraz has both. The epilogue and the CTA. 2026 will not be normal. It will be historic. Sinner trying to reclaim the throne. Alcaraz chasing the impossible calendar slam. A rivalry splitting the world in 2 colors.
Matches that feel like movies. Pressure that would break most players. Dreams that could rewrite tennis history. And we,
here at World News Tennis, will be covering every point, every match, every headline. If you want to follow the greatest rivalry of this generation, if you want every update, every breakdown, every inside analysis, backhand index pointing down, subscribe to World News Tennis now. Backhand index pointing down, activate notifications. Backhand index pointing down, join the community. Because what's coming in 2026 is the story of a lifetime. And we will tell it here. ****